Hello, everyone. It is my privilege to be here with you this evening here in the UK, slightly earlier, I guess, in America, as your guest host for the Templar Report. I just want to start by saying thank you for having me. It's an absolute pleasure. I have had some contact with the Templars over the past year or so, and they helped me greatly last year when I was really in need. And it just, it goes to show what great people are within this organisation, this ancient organisation, which I admire so much, because the whole premise of being a Templar, being a Knights Templar, is that you don't just recognise the need to protect and defend your freedoms, protect yourself and your community and your people from oppression, but you actually volunteer yourself to do so. And I guess there are two kinds of people in this world. There are people who are happy to sit by and wait or do nothing or hope. And then there are people that act. And I suppose I'd probably fall into the second category because I consider myself a bit of a freedom fighter. So I'm very pleased to be in such good company. And thank you for joining and taking the time. For those of you who don't know me, allow me to introduce myself. I am Jada Franson. I'm a British political activist. I'm a devout Catholic. I have campaigned for many years for many, many issues. They range from issues regarding immigration and grooming gangs in my great country. I have protested against abortion. I have campaigned for veterans. I have campaigned for persecuted Christians throughout the world. And it's been a pleasure, actually, although it's been relatively hard going. It's been a pleasure to engage in that level of activism, because when it's in your blood to do so, there's nothing else you really want to do. So I'll show you a video now, video one. Nightmare. And so I have taken to the streets on many occasions, just like you saw in that video, to protest against the colonisation of my country and to defend the Christian values of our great nation. Because somebody has to protect those values for our children. Millions of men fought, bled and died for us to be free, and I won't sit back and allow those values to be stripped away. That goes from the erosion of the family to the promotion of abortion and LGBT to mass immigration. These are all designed to take down our people. And so I have spent my years running these campaigns. They have been quite high octane and they've caused me quite a lot of hardship. I have been dubbed the enemy of the state in the UK because of persecution I have suffered as a result of these activities. I have no regrets. On one occasion, things went a bit further and the state took the next step. And here I'll show you the second video. Many of you might have seen this. It might jog your memory. This is video 2. And I'm outside a fast food restaurant here, which was the scene of a horrific attack on a young British child who was lost and went inside this kebab house to look for directions, and instead of directing her on how to get home, she was gang raped by a group of immigrants. And so I felt compelled. I was asked by the local community, and I felt compelled to speak out for this child and confront these monsters. And doing so landed me in prison. And I served 9 months in prison in 2018 for, allegedly, I still disagree, but for harassing a gang of child rapists. So these are a few of the background details of my story, but I suppose we can probably cut this video short and see sure we've seen enough of these monsters on the screen. And I want to talk to you today about something a bit different. It ties in with this though. I want to talk to you all about our freedom. Now, I know that the Knights Templar International has members throughout the world. It's a huge organisation, and there's some of the greatest people you could come across. I mean, as I've said before, and there'll be many Templars watching, I have the most admiration for men who willingly put themselves on the front line, who willingly enlist themselves to be the protectors and defenders of their nation and of their people. And so, again, you know, there'll be people across the world watching this. And I know that a large number of Templars are based in the US. One thing about the US, one thing about Americans is, I was speaking to a friend of mine in America the other day, and we were saying, you know, Americans, you're us, right? But you're the rebellious us. You're the us that wanted freedom. You were not willing to accept oppression. You are a free people, and you fought for that freedom, and you achieved it. So happy for your independence. But that is really important, and it ties in with what's going on at the moment, because right here in the UK, our freedoms are being completely stripped, and we are all allowing it. We have been told what we can and can't do. We have been told when we can and can't leave our house. And furthermore, aside from the regulations, not law, rules that we've been given, we are now seeing the police fall into nanny state behaviour and abusing their powers. Now, this has been going on across the world. People have been attacked. Here in the UK, people have had their doors kicked off their hinges and police have walked into their houses to search them for no reason. People have been sprayed with pepper spray. They've been arrested. A lady was held for 2 nights and taken to court and charged with an offence that doesn't exist, convicted. So what are we going to do? Are we going to sit back and take this? As a freedom fighter and someone who used to practice law and has studied law and I have a huge interest in it, I couldn't sit back and say nothing. And I've been posting these videos to my social media accounts, and I was quite horrified at some of the reactions. Like, most people have said, this is disgusting, this is disgraceful, this shouldn't be allowed. But there are people out there saying, oh, well, that police officer who just kicked that front door in must have had a good reason. The man should have just let them in. It's not how the world works, you know? If it were, this would be North Korea. Because we are a free people. And whether it's the Brits, the Americans, or anyone else whose people fought for them to be free, we owe it to them to defend our rights. If we give our rights away, it's game over, it's finished. And at the moment, we've been stripped of too many rights, and too many of us are just complying. And so I was quite horrified to see the reaction of these people on Twitter, and I called it out. I did call it out and said, you know, why would you agree with people being sprayed with mace for taking food to their elderly auntie? Why would you agree with people who are having a barbecue on a beach with no one else around, having that barbecue trashed by police officers who threw water on it? Why would you agree with that as a free people? Why aren't you defending your values and your rights? Well, I found it quite heartwarming to see that, especially over the course of this week, and we're only into Wednesday, and last week, the American people have been taking to the streets to protest and defend their rights. And it just fills me with so much hope, and it's so inspiring. And people might think, oh, she's just an agitator. She's inciting people to go against the rules. There is a big difference between having rules and having everything taken from you. And so to those of you who have been out peacefully protesting, which is your right, not just your right, but your constitutional right, well done. And I hope to see more of that. Now, I'm no stranger to police harassment and persecution, so maybe that's why I have a bit of a soft spot for the people in this country who are being persecuted. I don't care what part of the country they're from. I would do anything to help these people, because I'm going to play you a video now, video 3, and this is something that I endured after I was released from prison. I'm on an aeroplane here, and I was at Gatwick Airport in London, and I had flown to my house in Northern Ireland, and then from there I had gone to London to see my godchildren over the Christmas period. And because they didn't want me to be living in my house in Northern Ireland, I'd finally come back to England. This is what they did. They grabbed me on an aeroplane. They marched me off. And subsequently, they held me in a cell, detained me, took me to a court, and that court then decided that I was banned from my own home in Northern Ireland. And they told me that even if I had to live on the streets, this is just after I've been released from jail for harassing some gang rapists, these poor gang rapists who are all now serving 14 years in prison, this was the treatment that I got after serving 9 months. Now, I have absolutely no regrets about my actions that led me to serve that time, because I did it for a British child and for every British child that's been groomed, systematically targeted in this country. But this just goes to show the levels the state will go to for one person speaking out. And it really was one person. I've been engaged in activism for a long time, but when I say that I've been stood alone for a long time, I mean it. There are so few people willing to speak out, let alone take to the streets and defend our rights and defend our people and assert our values and our principles. And so I have been the subject of state harassment for many years. But what I will say is the large numbers that are turning out in America make it impossible for this kind of treatment that you're seeing on this screen, this kind of persecution, being marched off of an aeroplane for going to spend Christmas with your godchildren, being held in a cell for defending your Christian values. If enough of us take to the streets, if enough of us defend our values and defend our freedom, they cannot do this to all of us. And so this is my plea, really, and I've been making it for years, is that we must come together. And again, this is where organisations like the Knights Templar come in, because you are the people that are willing to do this. And it doesn't mean you have to go out on the streets and engage in protest. It doesn't mean you have to engage in direct action. There are many different ways to help. And I've seen that. It's been happening. The Knights Templar have been running an assistance programme, helping people in the community, because it's not all negative actions that need to be done. Right now, our people are under house arrest. There's no other way to look at it. And so we need to do all we can to keep our people safe, whilst forging our own plan to make sure that our communities survive. At the moment, we're facing the worst economic crash that we will ever know. This is an horrific time, and people are scared for a number of reasons. Some people are scared about contracting a virus. Some people are scared about the future because they have no job. Some people are scared that they won't get their freedoms back. Now they've been taken, they won't be getting them back. I'd say I fall into the final category. My greatest concern throughout this whole process has been acknowledging that the police were going to abuse their powers. I knew that. It was a fact. Before it even happened, I knew it was going to. And we're seeing it get worse and worse and worse. And so I guess we can pull this down. I think we've seen enough of the police harassment. I guess my message to people, or my question for people, and this, I'm probably in the best company because those watching this are active, you are freedom fighters, you are a people that will act. But what will it take? What will it take for people to do something? At what stage will the people of the UK do the same as the people in America and take to the streets to assert their freedom and their constitutional rights? Now, we don't have a constitution here. We have an historical piece of legislation, the Magna Carta, which I would acknowledge as supreme law in this country. But the state does not. It likes to push that to one side. And we've had our our Bill of Rights. We've had our rights to bear arms, for example, stripped from us, and we didn't fight for that. That's why you guys in the United States watching are armed, and in this country, we have no way to defend ourselves against terrorist attacks, against gang rapists. No way to defend ourselves. So we need to come together, and we need to help each other. We need to acknowledge that collectively we can make a difference. Now, I'm not suggesting that anybody engages in any illegality. And yes, I know I have been to prison. Therefore, people might say, well, she's a criminal for her activism. But don't we owe it to our children? Do we not owe it to our future generations? Or do we not owe it to the generations past who fought so valiantly for us to live. These men fought, bled, and died for me to be free. My grandfathers, they fought for me to be free. They fought the Nazis so that I could live in a free Britain. And everyone around me is just complying. People like to be led. I've noticed this. It's no big surprise. It's no big surprise. Unfortunately, we've got to a situation where people are almost enjoying the fact that they're being told, this is when you can leave the house. This is what you can leave the house for. This is what your children can do. We've got people being told in the UK that their children can't play in their garden. I saw that in New Jersey, the police are using drones to spy on people in their backyards because that, quote, they said, a patrol car can't get into people's backyards, so they have to use drones to see what's going on. This is not normal stuff. I don't want to be doom and gloom because we're a strong people. We can get through, we've been through a lot and we can get through this, certainly. But the way to get through this, I feel, is not to just blindly walk ourselves into the abyss. It's to blindly accept that our economy is absolutely ruined. It's to blindly accept that our liberties have been stripped and blindly accept the new Gestapo who are enforcing imaginary laws on our people. Because let me tell you, let me show you, in fact, I'll show you this video for, this is the reality of when the police abuse their powers and force you into a situation where you're contained. Don't ask me how I managed to do this. This is me in the back of a police van. And of course, I gave a little no surrender sign in the back of the van. I managed to film that video and I sent it out. And I sent it out to show people, look at what they are doing to me. If you think that they won't do that to you, forget it. It's not just me. They can do it to me, they can do it to you. But only if we don't assert our freedoms, only if we don't defend our rights. And so what better company to be in than a load of Templars who are ready, who have enlisted and enrolled and taken an oath to join an organisation that is willing to do just that. And no other such organisation exists. We have armies, respective armies in our nations, and they do a great job. But there is no voluntary force which is fighting in the name of Christianity or willing to do so. There is no such force. So I'm definitely in good company. And so I think the main message at the moment is that I'm trying to get people to assert their freedom and acknowledge their freedoms and how valuable they are. I want people to value their rights. I want them to value their freedom, because once it's gone, freedoms that go easily do not come back easily. Like, that's a fact. So I've been highlighting these issues and I've been exposing a lot of the abuse of police power on my website, which is jadafranson.online. And the response has been quite incredible. I've been inundated with people contacting me to explain all different scenarios they face, whether it be getting a fine for going to the shop for something that's deemed non-essential, or even worse, people being told they can't sit in their back gardens or their children can't play in their front gardens. I've been contacted with all sorts, and it's been a real eye-opener. But what is reassuring is people are starting to wake up. And the US seem to be a step ahead of us on that. But again, as I said at the beginning of this video, we're talking about a free people. We're talking about a people that broke away because they didn't want to live under, they didn't want to be oppressed, they didn't want to be ruled, they wanted to be free. And so it doesn't surprise me, it never surprises me when America are ahead of the game on these issues. And it's you know, it's encouraging to see. On top of the issues that we face personally of being locked in our houses, a lot of us will be suffering financial hardship. People will have quite high anxiety levels at the moment because they're stressed out, because we're losing our jobs and we've lost our freedoms. And so these communications, me reaching out to you and being in contact with you and having these platforms where we can contact each other, are so important. Because let's face it, we cannot, to coin the term of Donald Trump, we cannot rely on the lamestream media. They have whipped up a frenzy of epic proportions. I'm not going to get into statistics this evening. Maybe I'll save that for another show if I'm ever invited back. But you only have to look at the statistics to realise there's something going on here that's not quite right. We're being told that we have to stay in our houses because there's a pandemic that's going to kill us all off. Men, women and children. Vulnerable, elderly, healthy, everyone's at risk, everyone. It's a good enough reason to close the world economy. The statistics don't really support that kind of reaction. It seems disproportionate. But what have we seen from the get-go? We've seen media manipulation. And the media manipulate on so many levels. The media were able to orchestrate a frenzy over toilet paper. And people might think, oh, that wasn't the media. Oh, yes, it was. Oh, yes, it was. Because the media is showing one video of two people getting into a bit of a scrap over toilet roll. Now, let's face it, that video could have been from years ago. It could have just been the last. I'm sure people do have these mad outbursts here, there, and everywhere. I'm sure it happens. Hopefully not too often. But they use that video, and people are so easily manipulated by the media that it whipped people into a frenzy whereby suddenly, because we've seen a few headlines about a shortage of toilet roll, everyone fled their houses to buy 1,500 rolls. I remember driving through the streets and seeing people with carloads of toilet roll. The media did that. The media are responsible for a great deal of evil in this world. They revel in it. They are the most satanic bunch of people you will ever come across. They have no morals and no scruples, and they feed on people's fear. And at the moment, it's very easy to whip people into a frenzy because everyone's being told that their kids might die, their parents might die, they might die. That's what they're being told by the media. And so it orchestrates these kind of events, mass hysteria, people fighting each other for toilet roll. And if it's not just toilet roll, it's food in general. We saw people clearing the shelves of food because what were the media saying? Oh, there might be a shortage of supply of food, so you won't get any food. So what do people do? They rush out, they buy 6 months worth of food, and 2 weeks later, we saw images of bins, garbage cans outside people's houses full of food that was wasted. Food that could have fed an entire community thrown in the bin because of panic buying, because the media manipulated them into doing it. And it's not just the media here in the UK that are at this. How many times have we seen these journalists in America spouting absolute lies? There are journalists getting into press conferences with the President of the United States, and they're working on behalf of the Communist Party in China. Like, these people have no morals. They are the absolute lowest of the low. And so that's why these platforms are so important. That's why it's so important for these updates. And that's why I'm so pleased to have been involved for the Templar report, because I want people to receive the truth. I want people to hear what's actually going on. I similarly want to hear the voice of reason, not the hysterical spouting of the likes of Piers Morgan, just freaking everyone out because he himself is so effeminate that he's not equipped to deal with a so-called crisis. This is a crisis, by the way. I acknowledge that this is a crisis. I don't acknowledge that it's a crisis for the same reason that the state would have me believe. But I would certainly say that the collapse of my economy, the unemployment level being astronomical, that's a crisis. That constitutes a crisis. And I've always said you can tell the measure of a man in how he behaves in a crisis. Because let's take Piers Morgan, for example. I'm no fan of his. He has spent the last several weeks, since this whole thing started, just having a daily meltdown, hourly meltdown on social media. These are people with a huge reach online having a meltdown. We've had celebrities posting pictures of themselves crying in their mansions with their swimming pools because they can't cope because they're locked in their houses. These people are very influential. There are a lot of children that will be following these accounts of these celebrities. There are a huge amount of people following these social media accounts. They do not need to see that. They don't need to see grown men going into meltdown over a virus. That's not what men are about. It really isn't. And it sickens me when I see these spineless, these people, these men are supposed to protect us. That's what they're there for. That's what they're here for. Men are on this planet to protect women and children and to protect each other, protect their own. And we've got case after case after case of these spineless men on social media having a meltdown, crying. Oh, this is terrible, scaremongering, freaking everyone out. It's an absolute joke. These men are a joke. And then on the other hand, you have people that sign up to the Knights Templar and say, we'll defend Christendom, we'll defend our nation, we'll defend our people, we'll defend our faith. What a contrast between the real men and the babies and the sissies, because that's what they are. They deserve no respect. And as a woman who's taken to the streets and engaged in direct action, which I probably should have reserved for the men, to be fair, but there weren't any doing it. There were none out there. So I had to do it myself. I feel that a woman's place is in the home with her family and her children. Where would I rather be? Certainly rather be at home and happy. But when I see my nation being destroyed and I see no men doing anything about it, then I'll do it myself. And when people see that, it encourages them to join in. So I just want to take my hat off to all those of you who have signed up and taken that oath to defend your people and defend your nation from oppression. That's what's going on here. At the moment, we all have a duty to our future generations to make sure that their freedoms aren't lost forever. But certainly the likes of the Knights Templar, those who have taken this oath, Christians like myself, who value freedom, who value our future for our children and our faith, who value each other and our people. We've got a common bond in Christ. We need to come together at this time. So it's been an absolute pleasure to be online with you guys tonight. And as I say, I hope I get the opportunity to do it again. I just want everyone to keep in mind that no matter where you are, and no matter how crazy this gets, and it's getting pretty crazy, and there's more crazy to come, there are people, like-minded people out there who are here. You're not alone. If you're feeling like you don't want to necessarily go along with the status quo, and if you're feeling like you're in a minority, believe you me, you're not. You're actually a rising majority. People are starting to wake up. And so let's stay connected. Let's stay safe. And above all, people, let's stay free. Thank you very much for joining me this evening, and may you all have a very pleasant day and evening. God bless.
The threat is real, and we are on the front line. In a world of misinformation and attacks from the left and mainstream media, censorship, deplatforming, it is time to call out the fake news and bring you the truth. We are the Knights Templar. Visit our website and join today. We are the Resistance. Deus Vult.